county council needs to weigh in. As we proceed through this agenda, there's several references to taking us all the way till noon, to 4 o'clock. Do we need to go that long if we're moving along at a quicker pace? Can we end this earlier in the day?
Yes.
That's the basic question.
Yeah.
I don't see why you can't.
Okay, all right.
It's a
Yeah,
workshop.
we were just trying to provide kind of a worst-case scenario for the purpose of scheduling things afterwards. But
Right.
if
But-
it takes less time, we're all happy.
Right, this is just the proposed budget, it's the first rollout, and if we end up earlier, I just didn't want to be bound legislatively to go all the way to 4 o'clock, so,
Good question.
okay, thank you.
Okay, so with that in mind, I will turn it over to Meredith Ford.
Good morning, Meredith Ford, Auditor Controller. In your packet, you should have a Budget Unit 1000 Revenue Analysis and Budget Forecast. It looks as if our 2007-2008 projected actuals are going to come in at about 1.7 million more than was budgeted. Primarily, that's due to secured taxes coming in at approximately 420,000 above what we expected. Unitary value was expected to be flat, but was increased actually by 12.5%. Our prior secured collections are up significantly because there were a number of delinquencies last year, and I'm assuming that this year's delinquency will be just as significant, so that the the revenue that we realize on the penalties and interest should be significant next year, which will help with our teeter payment. The VLF swap and triple flip money is approximately 476,000 more than was anticipated. I didn't really have a good estimate to go by on that because it was relatively new. I didn't have a lot of history to go by. And the operating transfer from mental health was higher than was anticipated, and that operating transfer represents their AAD7 costs. For those items that I expect to be under the budget, sales and use tax will probably be under by about 100,000. Public safety sales tax also by about 100,000. Our timber yield tax came in, its total is 461,000, where we had budgeted 500,000. I expect that to either remain relatively flat or decrease slightly next year. It seems to be going down a little bit each year. Our room tax is currently expected to be approximately $50,000 under its budgeted amount, and it may achieve its budgeted amount. I'm not sure. That's one of those things that comes in after the close of the fiscal year, so I don't really know about it until we actually see the money. Property transfer tax is going to be down significantly. That's a no-brainer, basically. We won't be seeing the 300,000 that was budgeted for the harvest at Little River Airport. And I think that's all for 2007-2008. With regard to 2008-2009, we have the most recent estimate by the assessor at 5.43% increase in assessed valuation, which is less than last year, but still not a bad number. It's kind of nice to at least see some increase. The assessor hasn't completed their evaluations yet, although they expect to have them in by the end of June, so we should be able to finalize those numbers. Current supplemental taxes, I expect to stay relatively the same as this year. There seems to be a lot of property that's changing hands just because the prices are so much lower, and that's still, the values are still under, the assessed values that are still under what the people are paying for the property, so it's an increase to us. The prior secured, that is reduced significantly. That's 2.6 million in this year. That goes down to nothing next year. That's because we've moved that payment to the teeter budget unit. Also, the penalties and cost on delinquent taxes, those are reduced significantly because, again, those are being moved to the teeter budget unit. So we're at least making an attempt to show where the payment is going and trying to make inroads into that payoff. Property transfer tax, I expect that to remain just about the same or increased slightly in 2008, 2009. VLF triple flip, I'm still not certain where that's going to go. So I've just put in whatever this year's number is. The interest income I expect to decrease a little bit because of the states withholding their advance funding. We should see a decrease in the amount of interest that we earn because we won't have as much cash on hand. And the open space subvention has been reduced by 10% per the budget. And on the other revenue, the 20% return on the county's contribution to the county RDA is expected to increase, so that's up a bit. And that's the sum and substance of Budget Unit 1000. Do you have any questions?
Supervisor Delmer.
Ms. Ford, on the prior year revenues,
Mhm.
Can you explain that again in a little more detail?
What was budgeted in there was $400,000 in 2007, 2008. That was the return from the insurance company on the Mill Creek dams. And we've heard that it's supposed to be much higher than the $400,000 that we were budgeted. So, I mean, we've had estimates that it should be around $900,000.
Okay. And that's the only financial question, Mr. Chair.
Supervisor Pinches.
So, getting back to the famous stealth subject, the teeter plan. There, you in this budget, in the revenue section, you have considerable revenues dedicated to pay down the teeter plan.
Yes.
So it's actually, in this proposed budget, it's going to decrease, it's not a limp, but over the previous year. The balance, let's say last year, a year ago at this time.
It will.
Our balance will be
It's-
less.
Yes. Although that doesn't take into consideration the delinquency for this year, which
Yeah.
will add to it, which we expect to be higher because of the foreclosures and things like that. But yeah, we are making more of a payment on the teeter in this proposed budget, but still not what it should be.
Mr. Chairman, I guess it's appropriate for me to make this comment at this time. I was under the impression last year at budget time, and of course, the CEO's office has changed a lot, but I was under the impression last year at this time, but that between last budget year time and now, that we were going to look into a financing package to basically eliminate the teeter plan, and then from that period of time, make the teeter plan on a pay-as-you-go. I would propose that, and this is kind of a budget strategy plan, that we just paid off one of the three of our COPs. We made the last payment last year. So we have two COPs. This is not the pension obligation loan. This is the two loans we have on county facilities. In light of the favorable interest rates that are available, if we took the balance of the teeter plan and combined the two existing COPs into one note and refinance those three debt issues, the teeter plan is not officially a debt, but in realization it is, and refinance that, and respected the county's resolution that says that they would make